Hold on. The mics are muted now. Welcome, everyone, to this Friday's edition of the Signals from Mars live stream, brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast. Joining me today is Mr. Steve Hoeker. Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
And I can hear you.
It worked.
It worked, finally. Want to say hello to Rob Rowe in Missouri in the chat, and want to say hello to Jose up in Connecticut. Hope you guys are doing well. Mr. Brad Dahl is driving cross country in an RV, so I don't think he'll be joining us tonight, but who knows? Maybe he'll surprise us. So, Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good myself. Steve is a longtime listener of Talking Metal and obviously my podcast, and he's a patron for both Mark Striegel and myself. I do appreciate you for being a patron first and foremost.
Anything for you.
And we're from originally from the same area.
Yeah,
we're from like 5 miles away from one another, and we probably crossed paths and didn't even know it.
Probably. I know. Talking about shows, we've been at similar or the same shows, but didn't know each other.
Right. And I mean, I used to frequent the Roxbury Mall quite frequently to go to was that Alwick or
oh yeah,
and
I had
then
friends that worked there.
And then the Ledgewood Mall, which I believe is being like all chopped up or something now.
Yeah, now it's sort of coming together now.
Okay.
Now there's a Walmart there, like a super Walmart on one end, and then there's Marshall's on the other end.
Well, that was there before I moved over here, but I know that they were going to make it an outdoor mall.
Yeah, it doesn't look too outdoory to me yet, but
that was the plan supposedly.
Yeah, but, it's like the middle. They're still doing something too.
Okay, there used to be a cool record store there years ago where we used to go there to check out imports all the time because it was the only place that had imports remotely close to us. I don't even remember what that place was called.
Soundorama.
There you go. Wow. I completely forgot. So I'm assuming you went to Soundorama as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They went there.
They had
Pail kids there.
Yeah. Well, there was that mall really didn't have anything else like kid friendly, let's say, or anything that someone growing up like myself was remotely interested in. There was an arcade, obviously, behind that. And then there was, I don't even remember. I guess before the Walmart, there was like a Jamesway or something like that.
Yeah, there was the Jamesway and an Arthur's.
There you go, the Arthur's.
There's a real blast from the past.
Yeah, holy shit. Arthur's was a store where everything was in a catalog. they had stuff out that you could see on display, but then you'd have to pay for it, give them the number, and then you'd have to wait in line for them to turn your merchandise over to you.
And then probably like 8 times out of 10, they didn't have the item.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So I see that there's someone chiming
Somebody
in.
mentioned Rickle.
Yeah, Rickle. That might be my cousin who was having a difficult time logging in. For those of you on Facebook, we can't see who you are unless you go to this link here. Let's see.
I can't even see you right now.
Oh, you can't?
No, but
the camera went out, or
I see me. But
okay.
So
maybe the phone just thinks that you want to look at yourself.
Somebody has to, right?
Jeremy Weltman made it. Welcome.
Hi, Jeremy.
Mr. Weltman. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different things that I actually wanted to talk to you about because we cross a lot of different interests within music and outside of music. You're actually involved, your day job per se. Can we say anything about that?
We can if you want.
Okay.
I mean, everybody watches porn, right?
You actually
day job. That's my night job. Sorry.
Okay. You actually have a direct connection to a lot of the music that people are hearing. Kind of. Yeah. You actually work for a company that makes parts for strings, correct?
We did. We don't have the job right now, but
okay.
We do. It was Ernie Ball.
Okay.
Yep. And we'd make the ball ends that like the strings wrap around.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of times if you have a floating tremolo, you would cut that off, but
right.
You still got to pay for
it. So you guys were actually the balls in Ernie Ball.
Yeah. All comes back to porn.
See that? Yeah. I didn't know that. I apologize. I thought that was still an ongoing thing, but
no. It's funny. Over the years, we've actually had like quite a few musical things.
Right.
We made some stuff for DiMarzio.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of times we don't know what it is we're making.
Right.
Just kind of make whatever the customer says and send it on its way. This, I believe, went in the pickups. I don't know if it was the individual like stems for each string.
Right.
Or what, but that was also a long time ago.
Okay.
But yeah, at the machine shop that I work at, we kind of do pretty much a little bit of everything: medical, military, automotive, musical. We made something for NASA once.
Oh wow!
Which was a absolute money loser, and it was for like 5 parts, which is a very small quantity for us.
Wow!
But couldn't turn down NASA.
The Misfits brothers were busy, I guess, and they couldn't get that out.
I guess.
You're an avid guitar player as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you heard me, you'd probably say no, but but yes, I've been playing for a while.
Who would you say are some of your favorite guitarists?
Zach Wilde, but probably the 3 people that I really made me want to play guitar were Eddie Ojeda, Mick Mars, and CeCe DeVille. Wow.
Okay. You're a huge Twisted Sister fan. I know that.
A little bit.
Yeah. You've been to a few of their shows, right?
Yeah, 1 or 2. I saw some cover band called Bent Brother.
Oh, wow. You got to see that as well.
Yeah.
How did that differ from the Twisted Sister show outside of them not wearing makeup and the whole costumes?
Really no different.
The music was exactly the same?
Yep. They didn't change anything, and it was kind of like a wink-wink.
Right.
We're the cover band.
Right. It's funny because they had talked that they were possibly going to continue doing that instead of Twisted Sister shows.
Mm-hmm.
but it never came to fruition. So I wonder if maybe there was no money in it, or because the Twisted Sister brand name is huge.
Right.
And I mean, if you start to say, hey, Bent Brothers is going to be headlining this festival, people are going to be like, who the hell's Bent Brothers? Sure, you know who they are. I know who they are. But there's a reason why Iron Maiden doesn't go out on tour as Charlotte the Harlot or, 999 in the Inverted Mirrors. So
right.
They stick to to the name that makes them money. So
yeah.
I get that. With Twisted Sister, though, I mean, well, with all three of those guitars that you mentioned, for me, I mean, I knew who Twisted Sister was before MTV, but I didn't know Motley Crue or Poison, obviously, until MTV came about. And that was just because, MTV was playing the Looked at Kill video all the time.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to Motley Crue back in, I guess that was 85 or somewhere along those lines. What got you into these bands? Was it MTV? Was it something different?
For Twisted Sister, it was definitely MTV.
Okay.
My brother is 9 years older than me.
Okay.
He was into metal, so I would hear like his stuff, and then chances are he had anything that I saw on like MTV, he would have it already.
Right.
He's a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Okay.
Which I really like Iron Maiden, but they've never been one of my like big bands.
Right. That's I can appreciate that, because my brother's big band is AC/DC, and I like AC/DC, but I don't love AC/DC.
Yeah, my brother also loves AC/DC.
So there you go.
The two times I saw those bands were with him, and they were because for his birthdays.
Okay. What tours did you see AC/DC on?
AC/DC was Ballbreaker, I think. Was that the album?
Yep.
Or is it Thunderstruck?
No,
no, it was the one with the giant swinging balls. So I think it's Ballbreaker.
Yeah. I saw that show as well at the Meadowlands.
I saw him at the Garden.
Oh, so close.
I know.
Almost. We're trying to line up another show that maybe we'd been at that,
And Iron Maiden, was it the Book of Souls tour? What was the album before Book of Souls?
Final Frontier.
Maybe it was that. It was at the Manhattan Center. Or it's not called the Manhattan Center, is it? It's
Manhattan Center's really small, though.
Yeah, it's the main thing. No, it's the, I think it's Manhattan Center, but where NY Steel was.
Okay, yeah, Hammerstein.
That's it.
They played Hammerstein for Final Frontier, though?
I might have the album wrong, but it was definitely not crazy long ago. Arch Enemy opened for them.
Okay.
I think I have Book of Souls in my head or Final Frontier, one of those.
And it was with the three guitarists with Bruce Dickinson singing?
Definitely Bruce. Trying to think if there was the third guitarist or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really screwing it up. At least I said I'm not the biggest fan.
They played in the Hammerstein. They did play the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Okay.
But from what I'm seeing here, it was 2004. It was Dance of Death Tour.
Oh, okay. I was close. So I'm probably a couple albums off.
You are like 4 albums off.
Oops. Good thing I didn't say I was a big fan. It'd be embarrassing then.
Well, it's funny when you have people that'll tell me, I'm a huge fan of this band. Whatever happened to them? They just put out their 20th album.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I kind of lost track of them in '88.
But I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, but I'm a huge fan.
Know all their stuff.
Yeah, know all their stuff, but yes. Let's see here.
Oh, we were both at
Checking
New York
through-
Steel.
New York Steel, we were at, the two of
Yeah.
us. That was at the Hammerstein. That was Twisted Sister, Overkill, Ace Frehley, Sebastian Bach, who I didn't see, and
And
trying to
Anthrax.
think. Anthrax, that's right.
Forgot your
Anthrax.
favorite band.
Yeah, Anthrax with the Dharma jumpsuits.
Yeah, and we're not changing our name.
Yeah, that's it. So that's actually something that, and yeah, that I just did I'm a huge fan moment where I completely forgot about them playing that show. I tend to thank anyone who's played that show because that was such an emotional moment for me.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I was present during 9/11, so that show meant a tremendous amount to me. As far as so Twisted Sister, are they your favorite band 100%, or is there anyone that? Yes. Okay.
Yep. Sorry, trying to fix my camera a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
how many times do you think you have seen them live?
New York Steel was the first time.
Okay.
So, that was definitely a special moment.
Yeah.
Even without the surrounding circumstances.
Right.
And then I would say I've seen them 8 times.
Oh, wow.
9 times.
So I'm sure you probably saw them at the Rock Carnival.
Yep. That's where Mark and I kept missing each other.
How many times have you actually met Mark?
Face to face once.
Well, I have you beat by 1.
Ooh.
I've only met him twice, actually. I met him for the first time in 2008. He says to me, he said that he wanted to, was 2008 or 2009? No, it was 2009. Okay. And he wanted to meet up with me. I had just started podcasting. I was doing a show in Spanish, actually. And it was being broadcast on a radio station that he had that I was helping kind of program direct all the music that was on there. And he says, well, let's meet up in the city. I'm like, okay, fine. Gives me the address. I show up. It's this ridiculous recording studio. I mean, for him, it was no big deal because that's where where he would go to.
The guy that does TV and film all day.
Right. Right. That's where he would go to edit some of the stuff. And like, for me, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? It's one of these things. And I walk in and he was recording a show with a friend of his, and I chimed in for a few things. And then afterwards he's like, hey, do you want to go for some drinks? And I'm like, sure, why not? And we did. And during the course of that conversation is where Mars Attacks came out of, because he kind of convinced me to do something in English. And that's the picture that I use for the Mark Striegel podcast when I post those episodes on his Patreon. That comes from that encounter.
Okay.
The year after that, we met up, and I actually met John Astronomy, where we met at the same place. And that time we did a live show, a live joint Talking Metal and Mars Attacks episode. And we had Joey Z from Life of Agony come in. And then Anthony Esposito, who was playing with Ace Frehley at that time, called in. Well,
and now he's with Impellitteri, right?
Anthony Esposito, he's with Red Dragon Cartel.
Oh.
He was the bass player in Lynch Mob.
Okay. I swear there's an Esposito in Impellitteri now.
Probably.
Because he looks like my friend whose last name is Esposito. So
I was going to say
that's what it is.
There's quite a few Espositos in the Morris County area, no doubt.
You can't get rid of them. All kidding.
Yeah. As far as instruments,
Mhm.
are you a collector of multiple guitars? Do you have just one?
No, I have a couple.
What is your favorite one to play?
My favorite one is my Gibson Studio Light.
Okay.
Um, let's see. I put the Zach Wild EMGs in it.
Okay.
Well, I should say Guitar Center did. I'm not going in there. I want to be able to play the guitar again, so I
Right.
hand it over to the professionals. That's my favorite one to play, and that's kind of been that was a Grail guitar
Right.
for a long time for me because do you remember it's like Robbie's Music Barn?
Yep.
Uh, I went there, and this was the early '90s,
Okay.
and it was there. It was like electric blue. It's kind of translucent,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a gorgeous guitar. But then when you have high school money, it's like, oh, that's not going to happen. So then, by the time I did have saved up the money for it, it was gone, and that line didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
So then it wasn't until years later that I tracked one down on eBay, and it was actually cheaper than
Oh wow.
when I was going to buy it. So that worked out.
Right. And when you say Robbie's Music Barn, are you talking about the one in Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. Because they had one open in, what was it, Mount Olive for a while as well?
So you know what? There is one in It's I don't think it's Robbie's Music Barn. I think it's just Robbie's Music.
Okay.
Now, so I don't know if it's related or not. Actually drove by that today. I've never been in there.
Yeah, I was in there once, and I was close to picking up a it was a Dean ML.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think. I want to think that. Okay, now I remember what it was. The circumstances were as followed. I was living here already,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the Flame ML. It was red and black flame, and
Okay.
it had like a skull on one of the points of the guitar. It was right after Dime had been killed, so it was like one of the like first run guitars that they put out to like honor him.
Okay.
Jeremy's trying to put a band together. That's what
Yeah.
Brad was trying to do weeks ago. He was trying to convince me. He says, "Well, we've got the technology. We can all get together." Let's see.
Sons of Estonia.
Yes, there you go. Sons of Estonia. I can. Well, I will say this. I actually charted at 88 this week in the States, which I think is the highest I've ever charted. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure having me on will kill that.
Well, we're going to counterbalance that with last Monday I did speak to Tommy Clufetis from Ozzy's band.
We'll see if he brings anybody in over me. It's going to be tight.
Yeah, and then next week I have the singer and guitarist of Sumo Cyco might be on the live show. I'm trying to work that out. And then during the week, I may be speaking to someone from a band called, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, they're called Tetrarch. They're out of Atlanta, and they're kind of leading a new metal revival, per se. But the difference is their guitarist, Diamond Rowe, is a maniac playing. I mean, I listened to the album, I'm like, wait a second. Okay, so anyone, if they want to throw new metal comparisons at this, fine. But she's shredding all over the guitar, Cool. So it's a really cool mix. I enjoy it. For anyone that, and it's actually in Patreon, I've featured them a few times. So they do have at least one song in the Patreon playlist that's up there on Spotify and on Apple Music. So I do recommend anyone checking that out. It's a cool album.
I will.
Robbie's Music. Yeah, Robbie's Music. I remember going there once, and Gabriel, who is the one that is the unknown Facebook connection here.
Okay.
And yeah, he just chimed in again. We went there years ago, and they had like 20 Gorky Park guitars.
Okay.
It was like well, obviously they couldn't get rid of them. The Gorky Park guitar was a Kramer, I believe, or an Epiphone. I forget. It was one or the other.
Okay.
But it looked like a Russian balalaika. So it looked like a Dorito chip, but it was red. And then it had, I believe it was.
Sounds familiar now that you're talking about it.
Yeah, it said Gorky Park, and then it had the cathedral there from Moscow. Was like on the one. Was the one. Was on the one corner of the guitar, one corner of the Dorito chip. So, okay, so that's where, yes, that is where Gabriel got his BC Rich Warlock.
Nice.
He mentions that he was going to ask about Tetrarch. I heard them on XM. They sound great. Yeah, album is really cool. Check it out. As far as music that's come out this year, is there anything that you're really enjoying so far?
I hate to say it, but I'm like really behind on music.
You're really behind on music.
Yeah, like I don't know. Just I listen when I can, but I'm listening to too many podcasts lately, so that eats up a lot of time.
Right. No, I get it, because that happens to me at times where there are cycles where you get hooked on a show or a specific type of show, and then you start to listen to that continuously, and then you realize, oh shit, I haven't listened to any music actually this week. So I know what that's like.
Everybody likes their, like, you see a half-hour podcast, it's like, oh cool, I can get through that. But then when you have like 10 of them to listen to, it's like, well, that's quite a lot of time. And when you don't have a ton of time to actually listen to stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. What podcasts are you listening to?
There's this one. It's like Jupiter Invades. No, that's not it. It's Mars something. Mars Attacks, I think.
Okay,
that's a good one. I would recommend that. Another small one, Talking Metal.
Okay.
And then both of them have Patreon ones that are possibly even better than their normal ones.
Oh, wow.
I look forward to the Patreon ones.
Cool. Well,
I think you guys do an awesome job with that.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, when we started the show, I do appreciate you listening and supporting. It is awesome. It's hard to believe that people support me doing these podcasts. So I do appreciate it. Even just by listening, and, everyone that chimes in on Fridays is just absolutely great. So,
let's see. Listen to some figure podcasts like Wrestling Figures.
Right. Major Brothers.
Major Brothers, Fully Posable. That's my favorite one. Let's see what else. There's the Games Marks podcast, which they talk about wrestling games.
Okay.
I listen to Figure 4 Daily.
Okay.
With Brian Alvarez.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are my main, like, weekly ones.
Right.
That I go to, and then try and get through others when I can.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I listen to probably, out of anything that's wrestling related, I listen to Busted Open probably the most. But a lot of times it depends the subject matter. So, I mean, there are some times where I see a guest and I'm like, I have no interest in this person, so I'll skip it or I'll listen to it at like twice speed or whatever.
Right.
But, I enjoy that show because they have, Mark Henry on there, and they have Bully Ray or Bubba Ray Dudley, depending on how you want to call them. And just hearing them talk about wrestling and just telling stories or just saying what they would do, to improve one thing or the other. I mean, that really speaks to me. I really enjoy hearing them do that. It's cool.
I have a funny Bubba Ray story for you.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I went to see Ozzy with him.
No shit.
Yeah. I'm friends with Mikey Whipwreck.
Okay.
And back during ECW times, I was dating somebody, and then we broke up, or she dumped me. But it's not important right now. So of course I wasn't going to take her to Ozzy.
Right.
So Mikey was like, "Oh, he's a huge Ozzy fan."
Right.
And he was like, "Do you have an extra ticket?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Want to go with Bubba, or can Bubba go with you?" And he's like, "Okay." So I hung out with Bubba.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was interesting. No, it was pretty cool. He was. It was funny because it was before. This was at the Meadowlands. We went to go see him. I just remember this part. I forget. I want to say Life of Agony had just finished playing. I think they were on the tour with him, and so then he's just talking to my friend and I, and he's like, "Oh, you guys like wrestling?" And we're just shooting the shit about wrestling a little bit. And he was like, "Imagine." This was when he was doing the stuttering gimmick.
Right.
And he was like, just imagine an arena like this, like everybody like doing the stuttering gimmick. He was like, that would be the coolest thing. And then, a couple of years later, he's, they're headlining at the Meadowlands and stuff and all over. And, not the stuttering chant anymore, but, I always thought that was pretty cool. I was happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they had plenty of catchphrases from the "What's Up" to the 3D to Devon get the tables, obviously. Yeah. So there was plenty of that. That's cool too. I mean, for me, that would be like I've looked into getting like him or the other the main host of Busted Open, Dave LaGreca, who's a big metalhead. He actually does a show with his brother called the LaGrecas, and it's on YouTube. They talk about a bunch of different things like best front man or things like that, and a lot of the intros going into the different segments are all like classic metal songs, so it's pretty cool. And they reference a lot of stuff during the shows as well. So cool. I mean, that would be definitely interesting. I know that Bubba's really into Kiss and Motley Crue and stuff like that. So.
And AC/DC.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of. But yeah, he was. After that, he's kind of a mixed bag with him. Like, you'd never know what Bubba you were going to get.
Okay.
Just personal experience. He was either the nicest guy or not like a dick, but like, all right, that's enough of you. I gotta go. I'm busy.
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. I was like, okay. I mean, it's not like we were best buds or anything.
Right.
But yeah, so that was my Bubba story.
Have you continued to have, a communication with, I think you still talk to Mikey Whipwreck, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I talk to him on occasion.
Is there anyone else within wrestling or within the music industry that you have contact with that you speak to from now and then?
The Blue Meanie and I are pretty good friends. Joel Gertner.
Okay.
It's pretty much it for like big wrestling or name wrestlers.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I was a huge fan of the original ECW. I mean, I remember staying up. It was on, I forget if it was Fridays or Saturday nights on the MSG network. But I remember I would stay up and I would record the show as well, just in case if I fell asleep on the couch, so that I can, rewatch it and have it. I still have all that. That made it across the Atlantic here to where I'm living. I just got to get a decent VCR to be able to watch some of that stuff. Although a lot of that is still on the network.
But it doesn't have the music anymore.
Yeah, that's really that's kills a lot of the moods because
it really does.
Yeah, it's not the same like with Taz, for example, where you have that like Beastie Boys into Kiss with War Machine, where it's just the 2 seconds of no sleep till,
right,
and then all of a sudden War Machine comes in, or Sandman with Enter Sandman, or all of that stuff. What I don't get is I remember hearing Paul Heyman talking about that legally, since they were talking over the music, that they were supposed to be able to use it. But if you stop and let the songs play is where you run into issues. For example, he brought this up someplace where I was reading that with UFC, the reason that UFC doesn't do intros the way that wrestling does or the way that WWE and AEW does is because of licensing. Because if it's in the background and there are announcers talking over it and so on and so forth, you don't need to license it because there's no way of people ripping that off, supposedly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Paulie does know a loophole or two.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Jeremy is saying you guys like your wrestling in the States. UK loves their wrestling too, man. There's plenty of UK stars in the US, and there are plenty of promotions in the UK as well. So if you were to let's bring this back to Twisted Sister. If you were to try to hook someone on Twisted Sister, what album would you turn them on to?
I would probably go with Stay Hungry.
Okay.
I think that's just the perfect album.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because it was the first one that I heard.
Right.
So it's the one that I've known pretty much since it came out.
Okay.
So it's just in my blood now.
Right.
Or if it actually is really their best one.
Right. You mean you wouldn't say Come Out and Play?
I do love that album too. I don't know. I know that gets panned a lot, and same with Love Is for Suckers, but
right.
I think they're both awesome. Definitely different, but
right. I'm trying to think. I know my favorite album off of Come Out and Play is Fire Still Burns. I mean, that song is ridiculously good. I mean, for anyone that pans that album, there's still some good stuff on there. I mean, it's not my favorite album.
King of the Fools.
Yeah, King of the Fools is cool. Killer Be
Fire
Killed.
Still Burns.
Yeah.
I
would say Fire Still Burns, King of the Fools, and Killer Be Killed are probably my favorite songs off of that album.
Even the title track, I think, is awesome.
Come
Out and Play.
Yeah. It's not a bad song.
It's got the little Warriors intro.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely where, I mean, if you look at the imagery and everything, I think they totally went for a Warriors type look, but unfortunately they tried to like mash that with what was popular at the time. So it kind of wasn't taken as seriously as it should have, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Stay Hungry is just such a strong album.
Yeah.
I don't know that if there's a bad song on the album. And again,
for me, I don't skip anything on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I spoke to Tommy Clufetis the other day, I was talking about how his new album, it's called Beat Up by Rock and Roll. And actually it's under the name Tommy's Rock Trip.
Okay.
It's kind of similar in the sense that every song is different. I think that's what makes Stay Hungry so strong, that no two songs are alike. It's got the same like attitude and drive throughout, but you can listen to it without a problem because of that, because it's so strong beginning to end, and that every song is different. You know, you don't have a I Want to Rock Part 2. You don't have a We're Not Going to Take It 2 or The Price 2. You know, the price is the only thing that's remotely close to the price. You know, it's the only thing that's remotely close to a ballad on the entire album.
You know who the band is on the whole album, but it doesn't sound like I heard this song like 2 tracks ago.
Right. Which I think the mistake has been late 90s onward is that bands just focus on, okay, I've got this one radio hit, so my next album is going to be, you know, the B version of that, the C version, and the D version. And whether you like Come Out and Play or not, it sounds nothing like Stay Hungry.
True.
So let's see. Jeremy saying I got into Twisted when I Am On Me came out and they were on TV here. I bought the 12-inch and it has an outrageous live B-side of I Know It's Only Rock and Roll Epic. Yeah. That I Know It's Only Rock and Roll is also on Nasty Cuts and Big Hits, I think is the name of that. It's the greatest hits. And that's the whole thing where they're on the British TV show and like no one's paying attention to Twisted Sisters they're playing. So Dee Snider wipes all his makeup off and he says, now will you take me seriously now? You know, I've taken the makeup off. I'm still the same guy. And they had on the side of the stage was Lemmy from Motorhead and Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. Yeah, Dee does a monologue. It's great. Yes, it's the same thing. That's so classic. There's one of their DVDs actually has the whole thing too. It's really cool to see it, to see how it plays out. I mean, Dee was my first interview, and I've never been able to get him back on. I can't say that I like all of his solo work, but when his solo work is on, it is ridiculous. The last album that he released was just so damn good, in my opinion. I love those first 2 Widowmaker albums, and then I love this last one that he released. And I know that there were people I couldn't believe it. There were people that were complaining, oh, he just screams too much. I'm like, did you listen to Twisted Sister back in the day? It wasn't exactly lullabies. Right. You know, it was
it's definitely a little bit harder now, but you know, a little more aggressive vocals.
Right.
But it's still good.
But I'd prefer that to like his other solo albums. Like he was covering 9 Inch Nails and he was like he did that piano version of We're Not Going to Take It. And like the rest of that album was like a pop punk album. It was like, you know, I
still good, but definitely different. Also.
Right. But I mean, it's not, in my opinion, I'm not going to reach to that album if I want to hear Dee Snider. I want to hear that snarl and that growl. The Broadway tunes was similar as well. And I get exactly what you're saying. Yes, that last album that he did with Jamie Josta was heavier, was, you know, a little bit, you know, harsher with the lyrics or with the singing. But I mean, to me, it just hit the spot. You know, it was perfect.
Yeah, it still sounded like Dee Snider.
Yeah, and it had ridiculous choruses where you always want to, you know, have good sing-along choruses. That's what Twisted Sister was great at doing. And I don't know, that came out in 2019, I think.
I think so.
And that to me was one of the best albums that came out that year.
Yeah, it was either the tail end of 2019 or early 2020, but I think it was 2019.
Could be because he released the live album last summer, and that had like one holdover track from the album that didn't make the track or didn't make the album, and that was still cool. You know, was still really good. And apparently this summer again he's teaming up with Josta, and he's doing another album with him. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, the few snippets I've seen sound promising.
Cool.
I mean, it's D, so I'm really not going to badmouth him because,
Right.
he can do no wrong in my book.
Right.
Speaking, you mentioned Widowmaker. Did you ever listen to Desperado?
Afterwards.
Okay.
Because Desperado, well,
Yeah, Desperado I heard after Widowmaker.
right. Because they didn't release any of the material until after. It
Right.
was Desperado was actually had Clive Burr from Iron Maiden in it, had Bernie Torme, who had once played with Ozzy. Like, he was the guy that played with Ozzy after Randy Rhoads died. And a lot of people think it's Brad Gillis. Actually, Bernie Torme was in there before Brad Gillis came in. It just didn't work out between him and Ozzy. So I remember in that interview, and it's actually up on Patreon now that I remember. I've released that interview that I did with him up there. He says that Desperado was a much more polished band than Widowmaker was, that he was trying to go a little heavier because with everything that had happened by then, grunge was in full effect. And he said that the sound of Desperado just wasn't working, that labels didn't want anything to do with it. A few years later, when a lot of these hard rock bands started to really come back, he put that out. He put out a solo album, and then he did a Desperado. It was leftover songs with Desperado, or was it a full Desperado album? I don't remember.
It was a full album. There were a couple songs that ended up being Widowmaker songs.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was, I thought it was less heavy than Widowmaker. It was more of a bluesy, hard rock.
Because that's the type of player that Bernie Torme is. Makes sense.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because Widowmaker was Al Pitrelli on guitar, who at that time had just stepped away from Alice Cooper. And he ended up in Megadeth, and he's part of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Just a ridiculous technical player. So it's
absolutely.
Two different things, but equally good. I mean, as I always like to say when people want to pick, oh, absolutely, this is the number one, and you can't dissuade me. It's like, well, I don't know. I can enjoy burgers and I can enjoy pizza as well. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of just foolish rules that people just set the things. I don't like some of those albums that we discussed, but you like them. There's no reason why you shouldn't like them.
Yeah, I have no problem saying I like something or I don't like something, but it doesn't. That's nothing. If you like it, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't lose sleep over it.
Right.
I might think to myself like, how can anybody like this? But if somebody's like, I love this, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. We always have the power of the fast forward or skip button and just go to something else that you like instead. That's why I don't get why some people would rather kill things as opposed to just saying, not for me. Let me find something that I like instead. Instead of, a lot of people ask me, what do you think was the worst album of any given year? And it's like, I don't remember because
I didn't subject myself to it.
I focus on the ones that I do like. I don't just purposely sit there. I hate this album. I'm gonna sit through Judas Nostradamus 50 times in a row.
I'll listen to Saint Anger a lot. Love that snare drum.
Anger.
I know we've had this discussion. And somehow we're still friends. Go figure, right?
You don't like Saint Anger, you're saying?
No, I don't.
My Metallica playlist has how many songs off of Saint Anger? Oh, well, actually with me coming over to Apple Music, my Metallica playlist now has everything they've ever released. But I will say that there's two songs that I absolutely love off of Saint Anger, which is The Unknown Feeling and Some Kind of Monster.
Okay.
Frantic if he didn't do the stupid tick 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 tock part in that song, it would be enjoy it, but he gets to that and I can stomach it once and then I have to skip it. And I like the title track. The title track I think is pretty cool. The rest of the stuff, I mean, I have to be in the mood. They released a DVD along with the album where they're playing the entire album live. And it sounds
that's probably a little bit better.
It sounds a lot better because you don't have the paint can snare drum. Robert Trujillo is playing the bass and not Bob Rock. So there's sonic gains on a ton of things there, you know?
Yeah. Snare drum aside, the thing that I didn't really care for the album, that I just couldn't get into it, it seemed like an idea album. Like it seemed like it was just kind of, truth be told, I really haven't listened to the album very much. But it really just seemed like ideas for songs,
right?
That they had, and it was like, oh, we need this album tomorrow, and they were like, oh shit, we have like all these, we have all these pieces. Let's just throw it together.
Right. The funny thing is they had another album that was already recorded more or less before this, and they scrapped it because it supposedly sounded too much like the Black Album.
Okay. Which personally, that's not a bad thing.
Well, I think with what you just said is the problem that they had after the Black Album up until possibly Death Magnetic. And I think that probably has a lot to do with the band having too many yes men around them and just saying, oh, that's a great idea. And when they turn around, they start counting up, how much money they're going to be making off this idea.
Elvis all over again.
Yeah. I think their biggest problem is that they haven't had someone there to say, this is good, this isn't, to more or less sit them down. And I think Bob Rock, when he did Saint Anger, was just wanting to continue the money train. And he just wasn't. Well, it worked, yeah, because Metallica could release, a rubber poop with rubber flies on it, and it says Metallica, and it's still going to sell 10 million, copies. So
it's the Brown Album.
Yeah. So the Brown Album. There you go. Oh, yes, literally. Oh, shit. And that's where I think they went straight. I think I know a lot of people don't like Death Magnetic. I think it has more to do with the way that the album was mixed over the actual songs. Yeah. I personally like Death Magnetic more than Hardwired. Again, I think Hardwired has 8 good songs on it. It has 8 decent songs, maybe 6 good songs. One song that really sticks out to me, maybe 2 or 3. And the rest is just, hey, this is lying around. Let's just put it out there.
No, I absolutely agree.
Fans want content. Let's just do a quadruple album.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and the other thing too is they do a song for Lemmy, and if you do a song for Lemmy, shouldn't it sound like Motorhead?
You would think.
Sounds nothing like Motorhead. Sounds just like a leftover Metallica song to me. I love Metallica, but there's so many things that they've done over the years that I question. And it's funny because I think Hardwired is so front loaded. Again, the best songs are
definitely like the first 8 tracks. You're like, all right, this is an awesome album, and then it's like, okay,
yeah, then it's
all right. It's still not horrible, but it definitely
right.
They definitely, it would have been better off, probably at least 6 tracks shorter.
Yeah. Well, the official closer, which is Spit Out the Bone, that track is cool, but it's as if they go from, so you said 6 songs. So
Somewhere
Halo
around there.
on
I forget
Fire.
what is there, like 30 tracks or something?
Yeah, it's like
Or something like ridiculous. I was like, that's too many songs.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I would honestly say that it's 6 songs too long without throwing in the songs that were on compilations. Hardwired, Atlas Rise, Now That We're Dead, Moth into Flame, Halo on Fire, and Spit Out the Bone. To me, and if you wanted, Lords of Summer was a single that they'd previously released and they just re-recorded for the album. But When the Blind Man Cries was on a compilation. Remember Tomorrow, which is an Iron Maiden cover, was on a Metal Hammer compilation. And the Ronnie Rising melody was on the Ronnie James Dio tribute album. Again, similar deal. You're like, yes, Metallica covering a Ronnie James Dio thing. And then it's all like lighter stuff. It's like, such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, anytime I see a band's doing a cover and I know the band that they're going to be covering, I get all excited, and then it's some like obscure thing, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it might be cool, it might not be, but it's still, I had my hopes up for, they're absolutely going to cover this song.
Yeah. Well,
and they don't.
Think back at the covers that they have done in the past. You look at them covering Queen when they did Stone Cold Crazy. They took it and totally made it their own. Everything that's on the Garage Day albums.
Metallica-ized it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it got to, honestly, Garage Inc. Garage Inc. to me, at the time, it was like the new songs that they covered. There were like 2 covers that piqued my interest. The rest was kind of, There were songs that really didn't interest me, and I was like, okay, well, I have revisited on here on CD for the first time, so I guess I'm getting something out of it. Yeah. But the newer songs just did nothing for me.
I think they always do the Misfits good. Or they do good Misfits covers.
Right. Speaking of which, that's another band that we kind of share an interest in.
Yeah.
I think is there an era of the Misfits that you do not enjoy?
Not really. I think you also said this at some point, that WCW is actually what really got you into the Misfits.
To an extent, a few things coincided.
Okay.
They had put out the 2 albums with Michael Graves, and I had seen them at a Kiss Expo in Teaneck, New Jersey.
I think I was there. Was Dee there? Dee and Eddie?
Not the Misfits went almost every year. Jerry Only was there almost every year. So it's possible that it was after that. I went 1 year and it was Jerry Only and Dr. Chud, I believe, were there.
Okay.
And then I saw that they were coming back the next year and they had released the Misfits action figures. So I was like, oh, I want to go for this because I read that, they were going to be signing them. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to have another opportunity at this, so I'm going to go. They were on WCW at the time, and Famous Monsters had come out, and I was playing the crap out of that album. Yeah, I loved it.
So good.
Yeah.
Stupid good.
Yes, absolutely. And I showed up, and Jerry Only was picking up. He was picking up all the merch and whatnot. And I said to him, I wanted to come by to buy the figures. And he was like, oh, you're lucky. I was about to leave. And I started to talk to him about the last track on Famous Monsters, which is Helena. I said, I listened to this track the other day getting ready for work 10 times straight. He was like, really? You like the song? I'm like, yeah, I love it. He's like, we took a big chance with that song. And, I'm so happy to hear that you enjoy it. I've been getting positive feedback. And he says, do you like wrestling? I'm like, yeah. I go, I know that you guys come out with Vampiro and all this. He goes, well, I've been selling autographs today, but since I'm wrapping up and I enjoy our conversation here, I have this magazine that I was just going to toss, but do you want it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he signed. There was a picture in the middle. It was the Misfits coming out with Vampiro to the ring, and he signed that for me and gave me the whole magazine. So I still have that.
Nice.
Yeah, he was beyond cool to me. I had a great experience.
I've never met him, but he definitely seems like one of those people that is either really cool or really not cool.
His brother was a big pain in the ass to interview.
I heard that story.
Yeah, was a absolute nightmare. But take the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that I still got to interview some cool people, including yourself. And yeah, I do want to thank you for coming on the show this week.
Thank you for having me.
Having you pinch hit here since I couldn't. I was trying all week to get people, and it's funny, as we're doing this, all of a sudden, someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I can have this band on at this time if you want." I'm like, "Yeah, I've already lined something up, so let's go for another week."
Damn, you bumped me for a band?
No, I bumped them.
Or bumped them for me.
I wasn't gonna.
I'm honored.
You had said that you had plans. You came back specifically to do this, so I mean, I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna give you the hee ho. So
I even put on pants for this.
Funny enough, I'm sure that most of these live streams, there are probably a lot of people that don't wear pants. So
I mean, they're pajama pants, but they're pants.
No one's watching the from the waist down. As we started the interview, no one's watching the Moneymaker. So
yep.
That's
for my OnlyFans page.
There you go.
Where I am the only fan.
There you go. Awesome. I want to thank you for all the years that you've supported me. I do want to.
It's a pleasure.
Well, it's awesome. It sucks that, in all these years that I lived where I lived, I never ran into you.
Yeah. It is crazy. And I'm sure, I know we've been to shows or same shows, but I'm sure we've been to the arcade at the same time, or
right.
The mall.
Absolutely.
Crazy stuff. But well, next time you're in the States, or if I somehow make it to Spain,
we have to meet up.
Yeah. Although I would recommend coming here because the pizza's better.
It absolutely is.
And I still owe you pizza.
Well, regardless whether that's the case or not, one day we will make that happen. I do want to thank everyone who's in the chat tonight. My two cousins, Gabriel and Jose. Gabriel is saying that he's sure that he's probably been at a show at the Starland while you were there. So
I have been there. So you might have seen me.
So if you see him, well, I'm trying to organize, for those that don't know, the tentative date is the 21st of this month, where it's going to be an all patron show. So if you're having doubts about being a patron, we're going to have a show with all the patrons that support me on Patreon being involved at the same time. And I'm not going to give away.
I don't know if I want to compete with Brad Dahl. I can't compete with those buttery tones and good microphone.
You're not the first person to say that. And
he's just a cool dude. So
to top it off,
that's too much pressure for me. I'm like, I can't do this.
There's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of other people involved. Hopefully, that's what we're gunning for. And you guys are all cool in my book. So not everyone has to have the buttery overtoned voice to be cool and interesting. So
I think about him, being the Poison call center guy, and I would call I poisoned myself just to talk to him.
Just to hear his voice.
feel like, oh, Brad, you're so dreamy. He'll be like, why, thank you. Meanwhile, if I was the poison control, I'd be like, oh my God, why'd you do that? I wouldn't be good at it.
He's so calm, cool, and collected with
Mhm.
all that stuff. It's so funny. And he's so nonchalant when he tells those stories as well. There's a lot of stuff that he's told me off air, different things that people get into. And yeah, just to be able to handle that stuff is just, I think you got to be a special person to do that. He's definitely
absolutely.
that. So,
yeah.
Okay. Gabriel wore his brand spanking new Mars Attacks t-shirt. Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Before we sign off here, I want to thank Jeremy, Gabriel, Jose, and Rob Rowe for checking in the chat. I don't know if there was anyone else in there that I missed. Regardless, thanks to anyone that's listening to this, listening to the replay or watching the replay on YouTube. I thank you either way. And again, I want to thank you, Steve, for joining me. Is there anything that that you would like to promote before signing off?
Nope. Just be good to one another.
There you go. Some sage words.
Yeah. The world needs we all need to just be cool.
There you go. Awesome.
And that's it. All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream. See you, folks.